Hello there, my dear sleepy listener. You've come a long way to find this moment, a moment that, strangely, may not have existed at all until time began. What if time isn't something that always was? What if it, too, had a birth, a first breath, a first motion, a first hush that broke the stillness? Before you drift away into peaceful slumber, please take a moment to like this video, leave a gentle comment about your favourite moment of science, and subscribe to keep these bedtime stories coming. And if you're cozy enough to share, let us know your location and time zone. I'd love to imagine the sky above your part of the world as we float together. Now, dim the lights, get cozy, and let your curiosity float alongside the stars. You are not in a room anymore, you are not in a bed, nor in a body. You are suspended not in space, and not in time. You are before time, and that is a strange place to be. There is no motion, no change, no memory, no direction. Only a kind of infinite stillness, but not the quiet of peace. The quiet of nothing, no ticking clock, no beginning or end, not even a moment to call now. And then something stirs. It is not a sound, it is not a light, it is not even a thought. It is a possibility. A direction begins to form, a before and an after, a gentle preference for change, a nudge, ever so slight, that leans toward becoming. You feel it the very first inclination of time itself, like a ripple on the surface of a pond that has never known disturbance. This, physicists suggest, may have been the birth of the universe, not just of stars or space, but of time's direction. What came before this moment? No one knows. Some say there was no before, because without time there can be no sequence, no past. The concept collapses in on itself like a building made of mirrors. You drift through this primordial hush the state some cosmologists call the quantum vacuum, or perhaps the pre-Big Bang singularity, terms that hint at meaning, but conceal mysteries even deeper. And then, a flash, not an explosion, but an unfolding. The Big Bang, not a bang like thunder, but a blooming and infinite point stretching into space, birthing matter, energy, dimensions, and yes, time. You're carried forward in that bloom, not fast, not loud, but inevitable. This is the moment time begins to prefer one direction forward, not because it was forced to, but because it had to choose. You hover above the infant universe, now dense, hot, opaque, particles too energized to bond, too young to settle. Everything is in motion, but there is no clarity yet, just vibration, just expansion, and within it all the first clock, not a ticking device, not a numbered face, but a sequence. One thing, then another, and another. The laws of physics take root. Forces separate, quarks find companions, particles begin to flirt with each other, and from their dance comes the beginning of form. This is time's first heartbeat. You listen. It is not steady, it is not smooth, but it is moving forward. The universe doesn't rewind, it doesn't pause, it doesn't jump, it flows. That flow is what we call the arrow of time. And yet, the strange truth is the fundamental laws of physics do not prefer one direction over another. At the microscopic level, equations work just as well forward as they do backward. So why, then, does time move forward? Why do we remember yesterday but not tomorrow? No one knows for certain. But one idea rises again and again: entropy. The tendency of systems to move from order to disorder. from concentrated to diffuse, from cold blocks of ice to melting puddles. Entropy may be the reason time has a direction. At the birth of the universe, entropy was low improbably, beautifully low. There was so much order, so much structure waiting to unfold, and as the universe expands, entropy increases, disorder rises, like perfume spreading in a room, or heat moving from hot to cold. Things become more mixed, less precise, more aged. And so time flows with entropy, not because it has to, but because that's where the numbers lead. You drift now above this newborn cosmos, feeling its heat against your thought. It is expanding faster than light, not within space, but of space. Galaxies do not yet exist. Stars do not yet shine. But the possibility of all things is here. Time is stretching. You wonder if you could step outside the universe now. What would it look like? Would it resemble a sphere, a spiral, a wave? Or would it be formless, a mathematical blur, a probability cloud no one can say? But what we do know is this. Time began not as a property of the world, but as the world. It is not a backdrop to the stage. It is the stage. And everything else, stars, planets, thoughts, hearts are actors upon it. You watch now as the young universe cools, as particles become atoms, as atoms become clouds, as clouds become galaxies, all because time is flowing in one direction, from the first tick to this one, from then to now, from nowhere to you and you. You are here, breathing, floating, resting, cradled in the very flow of time that was born in the hush before memory, and now it carries you onward. The warmth of the first unfolding still lingers on your skin, or perhaps in your thoughts. You're not sure where your body ends anymore, or if you even have one. You're carried gently further back, not in space and not in time, but into a kind of before that doesn't quite fit either the word. This is not the early universe. This is earlier than early, a place or maybe a state where nothing has yet decided to exist. You float, not through emptiness, but through a stillness so complete that it cradles possibility itself. No stars here, no distance, no darkness, not even silence. Because silence requires sound to contrast it, and here there are no opposites, no this or that, no before or after. This is the realm before time began to flow forward, and somehow it is not cold, it is full of what? You wonder. Not particles, not energy, but something softer, like the way a pause in a song can hold more meaning than the note that follows. You drift through this unshaped moment. Scientists might call this state a quantum foam, a blur of probabilities, a sea of fluctuations. Tiny, momentary blips of existence appearing and disappearing in less than a heartbeat. It is not the absence of everything. It is the potential for anything. And in this place, time is not ticking. It is folded. A possibility, not a path. Like a book still closed, the pages unwritten, and yet somehow already containing the story. You listen. There is no sound, but there is rhythm, not in movement, but in tension, like a held breath. You feel the universe gathering itself, not in haste, not in preparation, but as a pause before a word. One theory, the Hartle-Hawking no-boundary model, suggests that the universe had no beginning in time as we know it, that near the origin, time may have behaved like space curved, smooth, without edges, like the surface of a sphere, where you cannot say where the circle began, only that it is. You drift alongside that curve now, gliding softly over the skin of pre-existence. No sharp corners, no edges, just a smooth unfolding, timeless and slow, and yet you sense it. The moment is coming, not with noise, but with weight. The difference between potential and reality is as thin as a sigh, and just as sudden, something shifts. It's not an explosion. It's a permission. The unformed decides to form. The pause ends, the breath is released. Time begins, not as a rule, but as a preference. Suddenly, there is change. Not much, just a tilt, a ripple. But that ripple changes everything. The universe unfolds, not all at once but in motion. A direction emerges. Time, once curved and quiet, stretches into something more familiar, something we can feel, something we can name, a line, a flow, a forwardness. You're swept into that flow now, like a leaf in a gentle stream. It does not rush, it does not churn, but it moves, and with it, the first distinctions arise. Space from time, matter from energy, light from dark, self from not self. In the language of physics, this is symmetry breaking the moment when the perfectly balanced soup of reality begins to tilt, giving rise to particles, forces, and structure. The universe, it turns out, didn't begin as chaos. It began as symmetry too perfect to allow anything to happen, and so it broke itself, gently. It chose a symmetry, and in doing so, it chose time, forward, not backward, change, not stasis, becoming, not being. You wonder now, was this choice inevitable, or did it happen differently in other corners, in other realities? Could there be a place where time runs backward, where cause follows effect, where memory precedes experience? No one knows. Some physicists suggest our universe is but one of many a bubble in an infinite cosmic sea, each with its own laws, its own tempo. In some, time may be circular, in others, it may not exist at all. But this universe, your universe, it prefers forward, it prefers stories, it prefers breath, then sigh. You rest inside that first breath now, not watching it, not thinking it, but being it. You are part of the great curve that became a direction, part of the pause that became music, part of the stillness that became time. And as the seconds begin their soft march into hours, into centuries, into galaxies, you carry something rare, the memory of what it felt like before time flowed, before direction, before clocks, before everything needed to move. You float there a moment longer, between the wordless hush and the first note of existence, and then, gently, you drift forward again, with time as time, toward all that waits. You feel it before you see it, a pulse, a warmth, not like fire, but like thought made incandescent, like potential remembering how to shine. You are being drawn forward now, not by force, but by invitation, into brightness, into pressure, into the deep cradle of the beginning. Not the beginning of the beginning, you've already drifted through that. This is the beginning of becoming. The young universe burns in all directions, not with flames, but with presence. With such density, such temperature, that there is no space for silence. Everything is everywhere. Particles crash and combine, separate and swirl. There is no shape, only process, no location, only movement. And in the middle of this fiery unfolding, time begins to form its path, not its existence, but its arrow, its direction, forward, not because the universe prefers it, but because the fire demands it. This is the first stage of entropy. The early universe is hotter than anything that will ever come again. And because it is hot, it must cool, it must expand, it must change. That change is irreversible, and that irreversibility gives birth to the arrow of time. You drift through the chaos, untouched. The particles around you are not matter as you know it. They are quarks, leptons, photons, the early language of being. They flash into existence, collide, and vanish again. Each event leaves a trace. Each trace builds a pattern. Each pattern becomes a memory the universe carries forward. You're witnessing what some call the thermal arrow of time, a concept in which the increase of entropy guides the direction of time's flow. It is not a straight line. It is a slow unravelling, a scarf coming loose, a song echoing into silence. You pause in the warmth. It is not comforting, but it is not hostile. It is necessary. This is the moment time began to become inevitable. The universe could not go backward. It could not repeat. It could only continue. You pass through clouds of plasma thick and blinding. The heat is unimaginable, and yet you feel no pain, only awe. Because from this heat, everything is born. Protons and neutrons form. Electrons find orbit. Hydrogen is born, and then helium. The first elements, the first alphabet of matter. You drift beside a proton just one born in the first millionths of a second. It spins without rest, not because it knows how, but because motion is the new default. This proton will live for billions of years. It'll join other protons to form atoms. Atoms will bond into molecules, molecules into stars, stars into planets, planets into life. But none of that matters to it now. It simply spins. It exists. It moves forward in time, one irreversible moment at a time. You float away from it, deeper into the expanding glow. Already space is stretching, not into something, but of something. The very fabric of the universe is expanding, and with it, time expands too. Each moment takes slightly longer than the last. Each second becomes roomier, softer, more spacious. This is called cosmic inflation. A period so brief, so fast that in the blink of a non-existent eye, the universe grew from subatomic to astronomical. It didn't just grow, it leapt, and then slowed, and the leap was not smooth. Quantum fluctuations, tiny blips of uncertainty were stretched across the cosmos. Imperfections in the fire, wrinkles in the expansion. Those wrinkles, they will become galaxies. Everything you've ever known born of an ancient hiccup. You hover above one such fluctuation. It is not large. It is not visible. But it matters. Because time doesn't just flow in this universe. It creates. Each moment builds on the last. Each burst of energy leaves behind a blueprint. Each temperature drop locks in a new rule. The laws of physics settle like morning frost. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, not random, not chosen, but arrived at, as if the universe is remembering itself, and as it remembers, it cannot go back. This is the deepest truth of the arrow of time. It is not enforced. It is emergent, a byproduct of expansion, a consequence of change. You float now in the first few minutes of cosmic history. The fire has cooled just enough for nuclei to form. The particles are no longer colliding constantly. Some are settling. Some are finding rhythm, hydrogen, helium, a touch of lithium, and still, No stars, no light, only time. You realize now that light, as you know it, still hasn't travelled far. The universe is too dense, too hot. Photons bounce constantly. No path is free. The sky, if there were one, would be opaque. This is called the photon epoch, a time when the universe was filled with light, and yet light could not move, and still time flows forward toward freedom, toward cooling, toward clarity. It will take nearly 380,000 years before the first photon can travel uninterrupted, before the universe becomes transparent, before the first light reaches across space. You think how strange that we equate light with time, and yet here, time flowed before light travelled. It is not vision that begins time, it is change. You look out now at the expanding edge. You're surrounded by movement, but there is no wind, no sound, only the weight of inevitability. The Big Bang was not loud, it was quiet, because sound needs air, and here there is only space. You drift further, watching the fire fade. Temperature drops, pressure falls, moments stretch, time slows, gently, but it does not stop. It has a direction now, and it will not let go. You find yourself wondering, is the arrow of time written in the universe or in you? Do you move forward because time does, or does time move forward because you do? A mystery, still unanswered. A whisper without a source. But tonight, it doesn't need solving. Tonight, it only needs feeling, and you feel it now, the forwardness of time, not as urgency, not as chase, but as embrace. A warmth that moves ahead and carries you with it. The fire fades behind you now, not as an end, but as a softening. You drift through cooling space, gentle as a leaf on a tide. The particles are quieter here, the pressure less frantic, the energy no longer screams, it murmurs. And through that murmur, something steady begins to appear, a pattern, or more accurately, in the loss of one, where once there was tightness, density, heat and intensity, now things spread, they settle, they breathe. You're entering the age of entropy. Entropy, a word that sounds like a secret, a hush that explains so much and yet hides even more. You've heard it before, perhaps, in whispers of disorder, in metaphors of mess, a child's bedroom, a melting ice cube, a house slowly gathering dust. But entropy is not simply chaos. It is the most patient of storytellers. It is the invisible reason why the future feels different than the past. You drift alongside it now, not as a concept, but as a current. You feel the universe gently losing its sharpness, not dying, not fading, just opening, expanding, relaxing into complexity. You pass clouds of gas stretching across space, thinned by expansion. No longer trapped in the early furnace of the Big Bang, these atoms wander now, free to cool, to wait, to gather. Entropy, at its heart, is the measure of possibility, and possibility, it turns out, increases with time. The second law of thermodynamics states it simply in a closed system. Entropy tends to increase, energy spreads out, order gives way to disorder, but not as decay, as diversity. You sit with that now, the warmth of tea turning cold on a table, the crisp structure of snow melting into water, the clarity of morning giving way to the clutter of the day, and none of it wrong, just natural, just forward. You pass a pair of particles locked in motion, once tethered tightly, now drifting apart. They do not fight the separation, they allow it, and you realize entropy is not a force. It does not push. It allows. It creates the conditions in which time can have direction. Because as entropy increases, the number of possible futures becomes greater than the number of possible pasts. There's only one way for a glass to be perfectly assembled, but infinite ways for it to shatter. You float now above a star nursery, a dense cloud of hydrogen beginning to fold under its own gravity. And for a moment, you ask, isn't this a decrease in entropy, order being created, structure emerging, and the universe, in its gentle wisdom, answers, yes. Locally, entropy can decrease. Stars are born, life emerges, crystals grow, but always at the expense of entropy somewhere else. The star forms because heat escapes. Life grows because the sun burns. Order is bought with disorder elsewhere. The total entropy still rises. The universe becomes more diverse, more diffuse, more full of soft possibility. You watch the atoms swirl, now pulled into clumps by gravity, lighting up, forming the first stars, and entropy smiles. Because stars are engines of change, they take simple atoms and fuse them into complexity carbon, oxygen, iron, elements that will one day breathe, sing, remember. Stars burn forward, they do not rewind. You drift closer to one now, a young sun, humming with hydrogen. Its core is chaos contained, a balancing act between pressure and explosion. Every second, it releases photons that took thousands of years to escape its interior. Those photons will travel light years, warming planets, painting skies, growing forests. Entropy rides on those beams. It carries warmth from hot to cold, from center to edge, from now to what comes next. You turn slowly in space and feel it all around you, the gentle tug of time's arrow, woven through every atom, every reaction. Entropy is not destruction, it is direction. And yet, there is mystery. Because the laws of physics, the equations governing motion, gravity, quantum states do not require a direction. They are time symmetric. They work the same, forwards or backwards. So why then does entropy rise? Why does the future feel different than the past? No one is sure. Some say it's because the universe began in a state of astonishingly low entropy, a state so rare, so ordered, that it could only unravel, like a ball rolled to the top of a mountain and then gently let go. Others believe time itself may be an emergent property, not fundamental, not eternal, but arising, like ripples, from the deep lake of quantum relationships. You hover between these ideas now, not needing to choose, just wondering, just feeling. Because whatever the reason, the truth remains. Entropy increases. And as it does, time flows forward. Not fast, not loud, but steadily, lovingly, like pages turning in a book that writes itself as you read. You move once more, carried on the warm breath of starlight and scattering. Entropy does not scold. It does not chase. It simply invites the future. And the future, like you, answers. You follow the first photons as they finally escaped into space, marking the universe's baby picture and a forward pulse. The starlight behind you softens, now not fading, but making space. Space itself has grown vast and tender, no longer pressed tight like a clenched fist. The early fire has cooled into something more patient. The soup of particles has thinned into clarity. And now, something ancient is about to open its eyes. You float on the edge of a cosmic hush, a quiet that took 380,000 years to arrive. That number may feel strange to you. Not a blink, not an eternity, just long enough to suggest that even time, in its youth, took its time. You're about to witness the moment when true light took its first uninterrupted step, the moment when the universe became transparent. Until now, photons, the little quanta of light, were trapped. They bounced endlessly between charged particles in a thick plasma fog, like children running in a crowded room with nowhere to go. But something is changing. The universe has cooled enough for electrons and protons to combine into neutral hydrogen atoms. The air is clearing, though there is no air, just space, unspooling itself into silence. And in this silence, the photons are free. You see one now. It flickers in place small, but infinite. Then it moves forward in a straight line. For the first time in cosmic history, this is called recombination. Though it's not a reunion, it's a resolution, a settling, a coming together that allows release, and that release. It becomes the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation. You float through it now, not in front of it, but within it. The sky around you pulses with soft radiation, stretched over billions of years into a whisper of microwave energy. It is not loud, but it is everywhere. It fills all space, and it tells the oldest story we've ever seen. In 1965, two scientists, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, were trying to clean up noise in their radio antenna. But no matter what they did, they heard a persistent hiss. They didn't realize they were listening to the echo of the Big Bang, a sound older than Earth. You close your eyes now and listen. You hear it not with your ears, but with your being. A soft, persistent hum, a fingerprint left on the face of time. This is the moment when the universe received its first photographic portrait. The cosmic microwave background is not a picture of stars or galaxies. Those didn't exist yet. It's a picture of conditions of temperature and density, painted in tiny fluctuations, tiny imperfections that would, in time, become everything. Galaxies, stars, planets, people, you. You follow one of those photons now. It moves at the speed of light, unwavering, uninterrupted. It doesn't age, because for light, time does not pass. That's one of the universe's softest truths. At light speed, time stands still. So this photon born 13.8 billion years ago is just as young now as it was then. It remembers nothing, and yet it is memory. You let it pass through you. It doesn't notice. It has passed through stars, clouds, maybe even your own body once, and now continues onward. Photons are not made for stopping. They are made for travelling, for carrying, and in their carrying, they define the shape of the visible universe. You drift higher now, above the early plasma, watching as the universe darkens again. This might surprise you. Didn't the light just escape? Yes, but now, for a long while, there are no stars, no suns to burn, no galaxies to gleam. This is the cosmic dark age, the time after light was freed, but before anything new began to shine. The universe is full of hydrogen gas, but no structure, just gentle ripples in density, slowly growing under the pull of gravity. You wait. You are patient, because time is patient. And in the dark, things begin to gather. Where the fluctuations were slightly more dense, matter accumulates. Clumps form. Clumps become clouds. Clouds begin to collapse. And in time, in silence, in the soft cradle of darkness, the first stars are born. Not yet, but soon. You smile or something like it, because you now understand that even darkness is part of the forward motion. Even quiet is part of time's arrow. It was never just about light moving. It was about the universe allowing movement, and once that began, it could not be undone. You look back now at the cosmic microwave background, stretched behind you like a glowing skin. It has cooled, over time, to just 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. It is no longer fiery. It is no longer visible to your eyes, but it is still there, still echoing, still stretching, like time, like memory, like you. And though it seems gentle, soft, passive, it is not. It is proof. Proof that time flows in one direction. That light remembers how to move forward, and that from that movement, everything else unfolds. You float onward now, past the edge of the dark, toward the first stars, toward the birth of brightness. But you carry the echo with you, not as a burden, as a heartbeat, because that first photon, that first step, was not just light escaping, it was time, deciding, and never once looking back. You rest beside a forming star, where gravity and fusion forge the glowing clocks of galaxies. The darkness begins to shimmer. You hover within it, floating through a silence not of absence, but of incubation. Something ancient is about to be born, and this time it will not come in a flash, but in a slow, luminous bloom. The first stars are forming. You can't see them yet, not fully. They are still tucked inside collapsing clouds, great invisible nurseries of hydrogen, folding in on themselves under the weight of their own gravity. You drift near one of these clouds now. It is vast, cold on the outside, warmer near the core. You feel the pull not on your body, but on your awareness, a sense of inevitability, like water finding the lowest point. The particles here are gathering slowly, each one nudging the next, not forced, not rushed, but certain. This is gravity, not loud, not violent, but persistent. And through that quiet persistence, something new begins to take shape. At the center of the cloud, pressure mounts, temperature rises, atoms crash and embrace, and then a moment, a flicker, a threshold crossed, a point of no return. Fusion begins. Hydrogen merges into helium, releasing light and heat in a blaze that has no edges. You watch as the young star flares into being not in a blaster, but in a becoming, a fire kindled, a heartbeat begun. And from that moment on, the star becomes a clock, not because it ticks, but because it burns. You drift beside it now. This first generation star, what astronomers call a population 3 star. Massive, bright, short-lived, made entirely of hydrogen and helium, born in a universe that had not yet tasted heavier things. There is no iron here, no carbon, no oxygen. Those will come later. This star is pure, and its purity is its promise. It will shine fiercely for a few million years, not long by cosmic standards, and in dying, it will create the elements that make planets, bones, dreams, but for now, it simply burns. Each second that passes is not marked by a tick, but by the release of unimaginable energy, and that energy is light, light that escapes, light that travels, light that carries time. You watch the photons ripple outward, each one born in the star's core, struggling through thousands of years of a dense interior before bursting into space free, fast, forward, and still. They are young, because for light, time barely passes. You begin to notice how stars across the sky, across the galaxy, across the universe become the great timekeepers of the cosmos. Their lives are governed by their mass, Big stars burn fast and die young. Small stars burn slowly, steadily, and can live for trillions of years. You find a smaller star now still forming, not yet ignited, a gentle sphere of dust and gas, curled like a seed in deep soil. This one will take its time. It will be a red dwarf, cool, dim, patient. It may live longer than the current age of the universe. You sit beside it for a while. No need to hurry it along, because stars do not rush. They inhabit time. They shape time, and they signal time. The sun that lights your planet is no different. It burns quietly, reliably, marking centuries in sunspots, millennia in magnetic rhythms, billions of years in fusion. Every ray of sunlight that warms your face is a message from the past, a photon born 100,000 years ago in the sun's core, bouncing outward before leaping the final 8 minutes to Earth. Time, as told by stars, is never urgent. It is earned. You recall now how early humans looked up at the night sky and began to measure time not with numbers, but with stories. The constellations tracked the seasons. The moon waxed and waned. The stars turned slowly overhead, like a grand, silent carousel. Even before clocks, we had the sky, and the sky kept perfect time, because stars don't just tell time, they hold it, like a vessel, like a breath. You watch as more stars are born around you now, some in clusters, some alone. The galaxy itself begins to shimmer, spiral, organize. This is the beginning of structure, not random, not chaotic, but flowing from time's forwardness. You drift to the edge of a young galaxy still gathering, still spinning, still learning its shape. The stars inside are not scattered, they are arranged. Their motion tells of gravity's pull, of dark matter's hidden hand, of time woven into orbital paths that will repeat for eons. Each orbit is a story, each revolution a chapter. Galaxies themselves become clocks, ticking on a scale so vast we barely notice, and yet they tick, and the stars inside them flare, pulse, die, each death a punctuation mark. Each nova a firework that says this moment matters. You find a dying star, now a massive one. Its outer layers swell. Its core begins to collapse. It is nearing the end of its burning. But it is not the end. Because when stars die, they do not disappear. They transform. And through that transformation, they scatter elements across space. Iron for blood, carbon for skin, oxygen for breath, gold for wedding rings, calcium for bones. The very atoms in you were forged in the furnace of stellar time. You are not separate from these stars. You are their memory. You are the next part of the story. Time, as it turns out, is not just something that passes. It is something that builds, that layers, that creates the possibility of memory, of structure, of self. You drift once more beside the star you began with, the first one you watched ignite. Its light still travels, its heat still reaches, its time still flows. And though it may be gone now, its fingerprint endures, because time, once shaped by fire, never forgets. You bend with the fabric of space-time, where heavy things slow the flow and light things race ahead. You are gliding now between stars. The cosmos has become brighter, not in glare, but in meaning. Each point of light carries a history. Each glow is a moment wrapped in distance. You pass them softly, one by one, like fingertips brushing beads along a string. And with each one, time shifts, not in big, dramatic turns, but in curves. You notice it first not with sight, but with feeling a gentle warping, like leaning too close to a flame. Something is pulling you, not toward it exactly, but through something. You drift toward a massive star, bigger than most, brighter, denser. Its presence folds the space around it like fabric under weight. You're not being yanked. You're not falling. You're just following the shape of space itself. This is gravity, and gravity, you begin to understand, is not a force in the way you once imagined. It's not a tug from afar. It's not a hand reaching out. It is a bending of space, of time, of paths. Einstein described this bending with his theory of general relativity. Mass tells space-time how to curve, and curved space-time tells objects how to move. You float along one of those curves now, drawn into a gentle spiral, not downward, but inward. Time here is different. It feels slower, like honey compared to water, like breath held just a second longer, and in fact, it is slower. Gravity dilates time. Near massive object stars, black holes, planets' time ticks just a little more slowly. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. You watch a clock near the star. Its hands move gently, but not as fast as yours. If you drifted far away and looked back, you'd see time there moving at a slower pace. And yet, for anyone standing on that star, everything would feel perfectly normal, because time doesn't slow for people. It slows for space itself. You turn now and float toward a smaller object, a satellite orbiting a planet. It, too, exists in curved space. But here, time moves slightly faster than on the planet's surface. GPS satellites must account for this. Their clocks run faster by about 38 microseconds per day. Not much, but enough to cause chaos in navigation if not corrected. You smile, or the cosmic equivalent of smiling at the idea that even your phone must understand relativity, because gravity is not just a downwards pull. It is a bending of time, and time is not a constant tick. It is a rhythm that changes with the landscape. You drift now towards something heavier, something stranger, a neutron star, a city-sized sphere with more mass than the sun. A teaspoon of its matter weighs 1 billion tons. Here, the curvature of space-time is so extreme, the bending becomes visible like water pooling around a stone. You hover just above its surface. Time here is thick. It moves like syrup. If you stayed too long, a second here might be minutes, even hours elsewhere. The deeper you go into gravity's well, the more time resists your passing, and then you see it, ahead, a darkness not of absence but of presence, a black hole, not a hole, but a place where space folds into itself, where time slows to a whisper. You drift toward it, slowly. The event horizon awaits the threshold beyond which not even light can return. You pause just before it, not afraid, not curious, just aware. Time here slows to nearly nothing. To a distant observer, you would seem frozen, never quite falling in, hovering at the edge forever. But to you, time continues. You would fall inward, crossing the horizon in silence. Not because time stopped, but because it bent beyond observation. You turn away now not because you must, but because you can. You drift back toward the stars, feeling the slow unbending of space around you. Time begins to stretch again, to soften, and you realize something. The universe does not keep one clock. It keeps many, each tied to its place, each rhythm a little different. but all part of the same great unfolding. You pass 2 clocks now, one near a star, one far. One runs slow, the other fast. But neither is wrong, they are both true to their paths. You remember how people say time flies when you're having fun, how it crawls in waiting rooms, how a year can vanish in memory or feel eternal when measured. Perhaps this is not imagination. Perhaps we, too, curve time with emotion, with memory, with presence, because time, like space, is not fixed. It responds. It listens. You drift above a quiet moon now. There is no atmosphere, no weather, just silence. Time here moves differently than on Earth, just enough to measure, just enough to know. Astronauts on the moon age slightly less during their mission than those they left behind. Not a lot, but not zero. Even motion changes time. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you again, not metaphorically, but physically. This is time dilation. Born from Einstein's special relativity, it has been tested, measured, confirmed. Even in particle accelerators, particles moving at near light speed live longer than expected, not because they are healthier, but because their time is moving slower. You let that wash over you now. That time is not something imposed upon you. It is something shaped by gravity, by speed, by place, and perhaps by you. You float gently back toward the open sky, leaving behind the warps and folds, the neutron stars and clocks. But you carry the knowledge now that the ticking of time is not a metronome. It is a current, curved, variable, intimate. And even as you drift onward, time bends with you. You descend into a quantum dream where time flickers, loops, and sometimes forgets which way is forward. You drift now beyond the curvature of space-time, past stars that shine like steady thoughts, past the gentle gravity wells and warps that once held you. The sky grows still again, but this stillness is not large, it is small. You're shrinking softly, seamlessly slipping down through scale, like diving into the reflections on a calm pond rather than the pond itself. Galaxies blur behind you, atoms begin to rise like mountains around you, and then everything becomes strange. This is the quantum world. You are now smaller than particles, smaller than electrons. You are floating between the flickers of probability, and here, time is not what you remember. It is not even what it just was. You wait for a moment to pass, but it doesn't, because here, time does not pass. It quivers. You glance at a particle nearby, or perhaps it's a wave and it glances back. Not with eyes, but with presence. It exists in many places at once. It is not here or there, but somewhere in between. And the moment you try to observe it, it decides, not before, not after, then. You've entered a world where time doesn't flow like a river. It twitches, it loops, it hesitates. You hover near a quantum-entangled pair, two particles, light years apart, yet linked in such a way that when one changes, the other does too, instantly, faster than light. It seems to ignore space, and it seems to ignore time. You wonder, how can two things so far apart be? Now, some scientists ask this too. Some say entanglement defies our ideas of causality of one thing happening after another. Others suggest that maybe time is not fundamental. Maybe it is an emergent property, a consequence of things becoming more complicated. But no one is sure. You float through a field of possibilities, literal fields. In fact, every particle is an excitation in one of these quantum fields. And these fields don't tick, they vibrate. They don't move forward, they shimmer sideways. You begin to understand the rules here are not symmetrical to the world above. Here, events don't always follow a clear path. A particle can move forward in time, or backward, or loop, or even exist in superposition, experiencing both paths at once until measured. In some interpretations, like the Feynman-Stuckelberg view, an electron moving backward in time is indistinguishable from a positron, its antimatter twin moving forward. You try to hold this thought, but it slips through your fingers like light. And maybe that's the point, because here in the quantum realm, time itself may not be a river. It may be a braid. Some physicists suggest this, that what we call time might emerge from entangled states. That order, rather than ticking, gives us the illusion of flow. You feel this now. A memory appears beside you, but it hasn't happened yet. A moment flickers into being and then fades. You're not travelling forward. You're exploring versions, timelines like overlapping leaves in a breeze, and still, some things do happen in order. You see a quantum decay, a radioactive atom loses a piece of itself. It is irreversible, no going back. This decay creates a direction, a faint arrow, even here, like the tip of a compass trembling in a fog. You drift past quantum computers, now not machines, but concepts, vast matrices of possibility. These machines do not compute like ours. They do not tick through logic gates. They hold all paths in suspension until collapsed. You feel your thoughts doing the same. You're not in one moment now. You're in many. They do not shout. They whisper, each with a different version of you. One remembers a path not taken. One never left a place you've long forgotten. One still holds the question you stopped asking, and one floats here with you, watching time tangle. You find comfort in this not confusion. Because if time is flexible at its root, if it loops and slips and doubles back, then perhaps memory is not faulty. Perhaps it is quantum. Perhaps that déjà vu, that repeating dream, that echo of a decision unmade is just another moment peeking through. You float now toward a single particle. It hovers, uncommitted. Its state is undefined, until you notice it, and then it becomes, it chooses. But you don't feel like you forced it. You feel like you greeted it, like time itself was waiting for your attention to move. You smile, or something that feels like smiling, because you understand something soft and beautiful in the quantum world. Time is not strict. It is generous. It offers options. It entertains reversals. It dances rather than marches. And yet, it still gives birth to the rhythm you know. From these tangled threads, the arrow of time rises like a melody from overlapping notes. Still forward, still familiar, but born of shimmer. Born of chance, born of wonder. You float upward now or sideways, or maybe not at all. You leave the quantum dream without leaving anything behind, because here, every possibility still sings beneath the surface. Time may not always know where it's going, but it always remembers how to begin. You trace the strange imbalance that let the universe exist, and wonder why time favours one over the other. You rise now from the quantum hush not sharply, not quickly, but as mist lifting from a field before dawn. The tangled shimmer of probabilities begins to solidify, and the world around you regains weight. You're floating once more through the early universe, but something is different. The silence hums with structure now. The warmth around you feels earned, not chaotic, but chosen. There is order here, barely visible. There are particles, atoms, laws, but there is also a mystery, one so small, so fundamental, it quietly shapes everything. You're surrounded by matter, the building blocks of stars, galaxies, bones, thoughts. But where is its twin? Where is the antimatter? According to the most accepted models of the Big Bang, the universe should have created equal amounts of matter and antimatter. For every electron, a positron. For every proton, an antiproton. Perfect symmetry. And yet, it didn't. Because if it had, every particle and its twin would have annihilated in a burst of energy, leaving behind nothing but light. The universe would have become an endless sea of photons. No galaxies, no stars, no you. And yet, here you are. You drift through this puzzle like a thought inside a riddle. Every bit of matter around you, every proton floating free, every atom waiting to bond is evidence of an ancient imbalance. Somehow, matter won. Antimatter vanished. Not completely. It can be created in high-energy collisions, in laboratories, in the hearts of stars. But the vast scales of the cosmos, the galaxies and planets and people, are made of matter. So the question remains, why you pass through the early moments when this imbalance began? It's quiet, not inaction but precision. There are hints that something broke the symmetry, a slight preference for matter over antimatter. Just one particle more in every billion, but enough to tip the balance of all existence. This is called CP violation, a slight asymmetry in how certain particles decay. C for charge, P for parity. It's been observed in kaons and B mesons rare particles that, under specific conditions, betray the laws of symmetry. They don't behave exactly as their mirror images should, and that difference, that small misstep, might be the reason we exist. You hover now near a decaying kaon, a particle that spins out of form and favours matter over antimatter by the tiniest whisper. It is not dramatic, but it is enough. This slight bias may have allowed matter to survive, accumulate, flourish. It may have tilted the arrow of time, because while time's direction is defined by entropy, its irreversibility might also be wrapped into this preference. You wonder now, did matter win, or did antimatter let go? There are theories, speculative but beautiful, that antimatter could still exist just elsewhere, maybe in hidden corners of the universe, maybe in mirror galaxies, drifting backward in time, maybe in a place where the arrow of time flows the other way, and we are their mystery, the absence they cannot explain. You smile gently at the thought, because if time is not fundamental, if it is woven from relationships, then perhaps both directions are allowed, and what we call forward is simply ours. You pass a region of space where particles and antiparticles still meet rare now, but possible. When they touch, they vanish, leaving behind photons, light without mass, energy without memory, time erased. You do not mourn their loss, because their light carries forward. Even the vanished leave traces. You look now at your own hands or the idea of them. Every atom in you was once balanced against a twin that no longer exists. You are what remained. You are the imbalance that survived, and you carry that asymmetry in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every second that flows toward the next. You're made of matter, but you're born of mystery, because no one knows why the universe chose matter. No one knows how it picked a side, only that it did. And from that choice or accident or preference time found direction. Matter endures, antimatter vanishes. The future accumulates, the past dissolves, and you drift onward, not backward, because forward is the only place left to go. You linger near an event horizon where time nearly stops, but the rest of the cosmos carries on. You have drifted beside stars, watched matter become memory, and followed photons through the hush of early light. Time has stretched and curved beneath your feet like a river made of glass. But now you approach something stranger, not just because it's mysterious, but because it is final. A place where time doesn't just slow, it nearly stops. Ahead of you hangs a shadow, not black in colour, but black in presence, not empty, but so full that nothing, not even light, can leave. A black hole. It does not call to you. It doesn't pull with desperation or sound. It simply waits. Time bends around it like cloth caught in a whirlpool. You feel the pull, soft and deep, but it doesn't drag. It invites. And you accept. You float closer. There is no surface, no wall, just the edge, the event horizon. You pause there, just before crossing, and time pauses with you, not from your view, but from everywhere else. To an outside observer, you would seem frozen, suspended at the edge, never quite falling in. A clock strapped to your wrist would appear to tick slower and slower, and then not at all, frozen in time. But from where you are here, just beside the edge, everything feels normal. You're not frozen, you're drifting. The discrepancy is real. This is gravitational time dilation at its most extreme. The deeper you fall into gravity's grip, the more time slows for you relative to those far away. You turn your head slowly and see the galaxy behind you. It spins in silence. Stars burst and die. Light stretches, but to you, it's all accelerating, because you are slowing, and the rest of the universe is not. This black hole, once a star, has collapsed into itself. The density is beyond comprehension. Its mass is the same, but its radius, impossibly small. Inside, all paths lead inward, even time. The singularity at its heart, a place where the known laws of physics break down, is hidden behind the veil. We cannot see it. We can only imagine. Some believe it's a point. Others, a ring. Some say it doesn't even exist. Not in the way we think. But whatever it is, one truth remains. Time here is distorted beyond recognition. You glide just above the event horizon now, balanced like a breath on a tightrope. If you dropped a light signal here, it would take forever to reach an outside observer, and in fact, it never would. Not really. You watch as a particle slips past the edge. There's no scream, no explosion, no flicker. It simply vanishes, not from space, from reach, from return, from now. You drift with it for a moment, crossing softly, and suddenly you're inside. You feel no bump, no border, just a shift. Here, all paths point inward, not just for objects, but for time itself. Time has no direction here, only collapse. There is no later, only deeper. Some say what happens inside a black hole is unknowable, not just practically, but fundamentally. That the information is lost, that the story ends. Others believe the information is encoded on the event horizon, like a hologram, that nothing is truly lost, just transformed. And some believe the core leads somewhere else, a tunnel, a bridge, a doorway to another part of the universe, or another universe entirely. These are called wormholes, theoretical structures allowed by Einstein's equations, but yet to be seen. You wonder if time stops at the edge. Could it start again? on the other side? Is there a place where time runs backward or sideways? Or not at all? You don't need answers tonight. Only wonder, only quiet. And here, inside this fold of the universe, you have found both. You begin to drift upward again, or perhaps you're not moving. Perhaps the black hole is releasing you. You pass again through the horizon backward, impossibly, and re-enter space that remembers how to flow. The stars blink again. Time resumes its tempo. Your body stretches softly, no longer slowed, but something stays with you, a kind of stillness. The knowledge that even the deepest folds in the fabric of space can't erase the thread of time completely, only tangle it. You look back once more. The black hole spins. It does not collapse into nothing. It radiates, slowly, faintly. This is Hawking radiation, a phenomenon predicted in theory, where black holes emit energy over time and gradually fade. Even this most timeless place still changes, still moves, still ends. It will take longer than the age of the universe, perhaps longer than anything else will last. But even black holes evaporate, because time, no matter how deeply twisted, never forgets how to go forward. You turn toward the stars again. Time flows more gently here. The clocks tick again, but you carry the hush of the horizon within you now, a softness, a reminder that time can stretch, can slow, can blur. But even at the edge of forgetting, it still remembers how to be. You watch the universe stretch wider and colder as time lengthens like a yawn that never ends. You float now at a gentle distance from it all. The black hole has receded into silence behind you, not gone, not forgotten, but folded back into the hush it came from, and ahead lies a softer vista, wide and vast and swelling. This is not the drama of gravity. It is the subtle breath of space itself. And it is growing. Everywhere you look, galaxies are moving away from you, not like birds fleeing, not like pieces scattered from a blast, but like dots on an inflating balloon, all growing farther from one another, not through space, but with space. You're watching the universe expand. It has been doing so since the first moment, but now it becomes visible, palpable. You turn slowly and look in all directions, no matter where you face. Galaxies drift away, slowly, silently, endlessly. And the farther they are, the faster they recede. This is Hubble's law. Born from the observation that light from distant galaxies is redshifted, stretched like a ribbon, pulled too far. The light is not just travelling, it's being carried. And what carries it is the fabric of the cosmos itself. You drift alongside one such galaxy, now a great spiralling cloud of stars, tens of thousands of light years across. Within it, hundreds of billions of suns flicker, each with their own planets, stories, silences. To the people there, if they exist, it is you who would seem to recede, because expansion is not something you travel away from. It is something you are inside. You float between galaxies now, and the silence grows, not because the universe is quiet, but because it is thinning. The stars are not growing dim, the space between them is growing wide, and time stretches with it, because as space expands, time dilates. The two are intertwined. They are not separate tapes running side by side. They are a single fabric, a single texture. You pass through a cosmic void now, a space between galaxy clusters where nearly nothing lives. And yet, this emptiness is not still. It breathes, it grows, it expands, and with it, so does the tempo of time, not in speed, but in length. Moments take longer to unfold, galaxies drift farther apart, the light they send takes more time to arrive. Eventually, and this is no myth, there will be parts of the universe we can no longer see, not because they disappeared, but because they've moved too far away. Their light will never reach us again. Not ever. You pass a point in the sky now where the redshift has grown so long. The photons around you no longer land on the spectrum of visible light. They are infrared, then microwave, then radio, then beyond detection. These are called cosmological horizons. They are not walls. They are limits. Limits to what you can know. Not because the universe hides, but because time expands faster than your reach. You think about this, a future where galaxies vanish not in death, but in departure, where the night sky slowly goes blank, where distant stars slip beyond the edges of the knowable, not because they died, but because time outpaced your seeing. You pass now a galaxy that was once close, its shape now warped by distance. Its light so red-shifted it resembles a whisper rather than a call. To look at it now is to see it as it was billions of years ago, and it will never look older than that, because the newer light may never arrive. Time, it seems, does not only move forward, it stretches forward, and in doing so, it loses pieces of its past. You rest beside a cloud of dark energy, or rather, a region where dark energy is at work. You cannot see it, you cannot feel it, but you know it's there. Because the universe is not just expanding, it's accelerating. Some unknown force is pushing space apart faster and faster. No one knows what dark energy is. No one knows why it works. But it now makes up the vast majority of the cosmos, and it holds time in its hand. A gentle hand, but one that pushes forward, away, into quiet. You drift now to a future long ahead when galaxies beyond our local group are unreachable, when only the faintest echoes remain, and yet time still moves, even then, even there, because time is not dependent on light, or stars, or memory. It is the very space between things. You breathe now not air, but thought, and you remember the universe does not expand into something. It creates space as it goes, which means there was never an edge, never a boundary, only a gentle becoming, like dough rising, like tide rolling, like a lullaby growing softer, not because it ends, but because you are further from the voice that sang it. You turn slowly once more. The galaxies are still there, still receding, but now you no longer chase them, you thank them, for reminding you that time's direction is not always loud. Sometimes it is the distance between two things that tells you you've moved. Sometimes it is the silence between words that shows you the length of the sentence. Sometimes it is what you no longer see that teaches you what was real. You rest now in the wide, breathing cosmos, and time, like the universe, keeps going, not fast, not sharp, but forward, always forward. You listen to your own thoughts stretch and rewind, showing that time inside you is elastic and deeply personal. The stars fade softly behind your shoulders now, not gone, not distant, just resting. Because this part of the journey doesn't lead outward, it turns inward. You're floating not through galaxies now, but through memory, through mind, through the quiet architecture behind your eyes, and here, time begins to feel different. The universe, with all its grand expansions and glowing stars, has always obeyed time on a cosmic scale. seconds, years, eons. But you carry a different kind of clock, the one inside you, and it does not tick in regular rhythm. It flows in ways you can't always name. You close your eyes and you remember a face, a moment, a breath. Not from this night, from another, one that returns with clarity, as if no time had passed, as if time had coiled, looped around, brought you back to something that never truly left. You're drifting now through your own thoughts, watching memories flicker like lanterns across a quiet lake. Some float gently, some flash and vanish, some glow steadily, like stars in their own right. You begin to notice how some moments stretch, childhood summers that felt infinite, waiting rooms that swelled with heavy minutes, laughter that blinked past like lightning, losses that feel as near today as the day they happened. This is psychological time, not the time of clocks, but the time of being, and it bends, it spirals, it sometimes stands still. Your brain, remarkably, has no single master clock, no central gear that keeps you in sync. Instead, it keeps many rhythms, some fast, some slow, some that count heartbeats, others that listen to emotion. You drift past neurons firing gently in the dark. They don't know seconds, they know sequence, they know pattern, they know difference, and from that, your mind invents time. It is not handed to you, you construct it. That is why a new experience, a first kiss, a strange trip, an unfamiliar street can feel so long. Your brain writes it in high resolution, with many new details, time stretches, but routine a morning repeated 100 times that passes in a blur, because your mind records it with fewer brushstrokes. Time shrinks. You pause beside a memory now, a tender one, and you realize this happened years ago, but it still feels alive. The colors haven't faded. The sound returns like music through a wall. You are not remembering it. You are with it. And in a way, your body believes it is now. This is how trauma can live in the present. This is how joy can be relived long after it's gone. Your inner clock doesn't just tick forward. It loops. It lingers. It skips. You float toward the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped region in your brain that records events. Not just what happened, but when it happened. It helps you place things in time. But even the hippocampus can be tricked by emotion, by stress, by silence. And so your sense of time becomes personal. Two people can live through the same moment and carry two completely different clocks away from it. One long, one short, both true. You drift now beside the default mode network, a group of brain regions that light up when you daydream, when you reflect, when you wonder. This is the self in motion, and it doesn't obey the calendar. It rewrites the past. It imagines the future. It builds timelines from memory, from hope, from fear. This is the theatre of time, and you are both audience and actor. You lie back now, in your thoughts, and you wonder if time in the mind is so flexible. Is the arrow even real? What if it's a suggestion? What if memory is the thing that gives time its forward feel? What if forgetting is the true engine of time? You don't need answers, only the softness of asking. You turn now toward the rhythms of your body, the beat of your heart, the breath in your lungs. They, too, are clocks, but they are not mechanical. They follow circadian rhythm cycles tied to the rotation of the earth, to the presence or absence of light. You sleep when it's dark, you wake with the sun, but even without sunlight, your body still remembers the pattern, because you are part of time, shaped by it. and shaping it, too. You recall the way a song from childhood can bring back an entire year, or how a smell can drop you into a day long gone. That is not illusion. That is time, braided into your senses. The line between now and then is not a wall, it's a curtain, and it moves when you breathe. You return to yourself now, to this night, to this bed, and you feel time gently unfolding, not fast, not slow, just true, because your mind has always held its own rhythm, a clock made of memory, a calendar drawn in feelings, a timekeeper softer than stars, and it keeps you grounded, even as the universe expands, even as galaxies vanish, even as light forgets where it came from. You remain. Breathing, remembering, becoming. Because time, real time, lives in you, too. You wander through sleep and memory, where events happen out of order and yet feel perfectly placed. You're lying down now, not on a planet, not inside a starship, just within yourself. The galaxies drift silently far above, the black holes whisper far behind, and the clocks, all of them, grow quiet, because you're not awake anymore. Not quite. You are crossing the soft, almost invisible line that separates waking from dreaming, and on the other side of that line, time forgets its shoes. You step into your dream gently, not with certainty, not with a map, just with curiosity. Here, nothing happens when it's supposed to. The hallway you walk down as a child stretches endlessly into the sky. A long-lost friend sits at a table that belongs to a job you haven't started yet. You're 7 and 70 at once, and none of it feels wrong. This is not a mistake. This is how dreaming works, and it has everything to do with time. You see, while you sleep, particularly during REM, that deep sea of rapid eye movement, your brain becomes active in ways that echo waking life. But there's a key difference. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your mind responsible for logic, for order, for time, goes quiet. And when the keeper of time is silent, the rest of the mind begins to roam. You drift now beside a dream, not your own, not yet, but someone else's floating like a soap bubble in the night sky. Inside, a beach meets a subway tunnel. A grandmother recites a poem that was never written. The ocean sings in Morse code, and it all makes sense in there, because dreams do not obey chronology. They follow meaning. They follow emotion. You understand now that in the sleeping brain, time becomes circular, moments loop, events blend. A decision made later can influence something that already happened in the dream. And this backward causality is not just poetic, it's measurable. Researchers studying sleep have found that the brain rehearses experiences in reverse. Neurons fire in patterns that mirror waking life, but backward. A memory encoded during the day might replay during the night, in reverse, as if the mind is walking backward through time to stitch the day into the self. You drift deeper now, not into one dream, but many. They hang like lanterns in the dark. Some flicker, some glow steady. One is a memory from a future that hasn't happened. Another is a fear you no longer remember having. All are stitched with sensation, not logic. This is the realm where time is liquid, and yet, you always know where you are. Not in the clock, but in the story. Because the dreaming mind doesn't care when something happened. It cares why. A dog from childhood might appear beside a building you've never entered, and the feeling is one of comfort, of loss, of something true. The dream is illogical, but not false. You rest inside one now. It moves around you like a tide. You see a house, but it keeps changing. One moment it's your home, the next it's a classroom. Then it's made of glass, and then it's gone. But you don't question it, you accept it, because the part of you that measures time, that anchors sequence, that keeps the world in straight lines is asleep, and the part of you that feels, that part is fully awake. Time in dreams is elastic. 5 minutes of dreaming can stretch across what feels like hours. An entire journey, romance, war, can pass in the space between two blinks. And when you wake, it feels like you've returned from somewhere real. Because you have. Not real in the physical sense, but real in the emotional sense. You remember a dream from long ago, not just the images, but the weight, the way it changed you, as if you lived something in a place where time doesn't count, but still matters. You begin to see dreams as secret workshops of time. Places where your mind rehearses, rewrites, resolves. You've had dreams that gave you answers, dreams that comforted grief, dreams that felt like prophecies. And some say the dreaming mind is just noise. But you know better. You pass beside a sleeping child now, curled beneath a moonlit window, inside their mind. Stars bloom into candy. Their pet learns to fly. The wind teaches them a new language. And time doesn't tick. It flows. It lingers. It visits. You float on, past cultures that revered dreams. The Aborigines speak of the dreamtime not as unconscious fantasy, but as sacred truth, a realm that underlies waking life. In some ancient mythologies, time began in a dream, and maybe it never left. Maybe every moment of sleep is a return, a pause in the forward arrow, a detour into something sideways. You find your own dream again, waiting. It opens like a door you never built, and inside, you're walking through a forest made of memory. Leaves fall in reverse, voices come before faces, the sun sets, then rises, then vanishes, and in the middle of it all is you, quiet, whole, timeless. You lie down in the dream, and you feel time breathe, not forward, not backward, just around you, like a blanket, like a sea. And when you wake again softly, slowly time will resume its usual shape, but the dream will remain, tucked beneath the seconds, whispering that time is not a ruler, it is a mirror, and sometimes we see ourselves best when the hands on the clock stop moving. You sync with the rhythms of cells and circadian breath, a reminder that time can live in heartbeat, not hours. You rise now from the sea of dreams, not suddenly, not with a jolt, but like mist lifting gently from the morning earth. The strange rivers of sleep recede, and the world begins to form around you again. But this time, it's not made of stars, it's made of skin. You are back inside the body now. Not any one body, but a kind of shared humanity, a presence curled within breath and blood, cradled in quiet pulse. And here, time takes on a new rhythm. It does not tick, it beats, it inhales, it lives. You listen for it not with ears, but with being. And there it is, the slow, steady pulse of biological time. A clock inside you that you did not build, one you cannot see, but which carries you from moment to moment with more care than any machine. Your body knows the hours, not by number, but by light, by temperature, by the slow, cellular memory of sunrises and darkened rooms. This is your circadian rhythm, a natural internal clock tuned to the cycle of day and night. It lives in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a cluster of neurons nestled deep in the brain, tiny and yet powerful enough to govern the tempo of nearly every system in your body. Hormones rise and fall with its signal. Core temperature rises in the morning, dips at night. Appetite changes. Alertness ebbs and flows. Even your DNA, the quiet script of your existence, follows this rhythm. You drift now beside a single cell, nestled in the lining of the gut. It pulses, not with light, but with anticipation. Its genes open and close at specific hours, not based on thought, but on trust. Trust in rhythm, trust in pattern, trust in time. You pass into the liver, where enzymes prepare for digestion before the first bite. You float through the lungs, which breathe differently at midnight than at noon. You rest beside the pineal gland, a tiny structure near the center of the brain, which begins to release melatonin as darkness falls, a gentle chemical lullaby that urges sleep. This is not clockwork. This is music, and your body is listening. You think about how you wake, before the alarm, before the noise. Your body often knows when morning comes, even without windows, even without watches, because your inner clock's biological. Personal, ancestral are keeping time with the planet. With Earth's rotation, you are a being born of solar rhythm, a human made not just of carbon and water, but of light. The sun doesn't just warm you, it orients you. You turn now to other beings, animals, plants, all cradled in their own circadian songs. The sunflower that turns its face to the sun, the bird that sings precisely before dawn, the jellyfish pulsing in deep oceans, still synced to a sky it has never seen. They all carry the rhythm, they all remember the clock. You watch as a baby is born, their first breath, their first adjustment to the cycle. They do not sleep with the sun, not yet, but the rhythm is already inside them, waiting. You float above a field now. Grass is swaying, not just in wind, but in time. Each leaf opening and closing with the skies turning. Even plants have clocks not symbolic, but molecular. Genes that flick on and off with the arc of the day. A choreography of chemistry. A ballet of biology. And in this ballet, you are a dancer too. You think about how jet lag feels the confusion of time zones, the body unsure of when to eat, when to rest. It's not weakness. It's a clock displaced. It's your cells looking for their song. You recall that every heartbeat follows a beat set in motion before you were born. The heart begins to pulse in the womb long before the brain is ready to measure anything, and it will keep pulsing through sleep, through love, through silence, until the very last moment. Because your body knows time, even when your mind forgets. You listen now to your breath. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. Pause. A clock more ancient than words. A rhythm more personal than any watch. You think of how time feels during a hug, how it softens, how it slows, how 1 minute in closeness can feel like an hour, not because anything changed, but because presence is its own kind of tempo. You float now through a hospital room. An elderly man sits at the window, his body slower, his rhythm deeper, and yet he feels more time than the young doctor beside him. He remembers seasons that have vanished. He measures time in layers now, not in speed. You realize something gentle and profound. Biological time does not ask for permission. It simply is. It is why you feel hungry when you do. It is why you fall asleep at the movie, even though the sun is still high. It is why tears come at certain hours and joy at others. Time, here, is not mechanical. It is felt. and because it is felt, it is yours. You lie back again, within yourself, and you feel all your internal clocks ticking together, not identically, but in agreement. They are not ticking for time, they are ticking as time. The body is not a passenger on the train of time, it builds the tracks as it goes. You close your eyes. The stars are far away now, but you do not need them, because the galaxy has always lived beneath your ribs, and time has always been part of your breath. You're not keeping time, you are time, in motion, in rhythm, in rest. You walk across a glacier melting into air, tracing how irreversible change reveals time's favourite direction. You step softly now, not through stars, not through dreams, but across something vast and ancient. The world beneath your feet is solid, yet shifting, cold, yet alive, slow, yet relentless. You stand on the edge of a glacier, an ocean of ice stretching beyond the horizon, folded like frozen rivers caught in a pause that lasts centuries. This glacier is a monument, not just to water, but to time itself. Because here in this immense, quiet expanse you can feel the asymmetry of time most clearly. You walk slowly forward, each step pressing into snow and ice compacted over millennia. You notice the texture beneath your feet, layers of frozen history. Air bubbles trapped like whispers from a long-forgotten era, dust from distant deserts, traces of ancient forests. You breathe deeply. The cold air is sharp, clean, but soft around your lungs, and as you move, you see the glacier is not still, it flows, not like a river of water, but like a river of slow motion. A slow, powerful creep down the mountain. Gravity pulls the ice mass steadily. It slips and slides, drags and stretches, and in that movement, time reveals its direction. You watch cracks form in the surface, not breaking but bending, not shattering but yielding. The ice does not flow backward, it does not reset, it only moves, downward, forward. You follow a rivulet of meltwater bubbling at the glacier's edge. It twists, dances, and rushes away from ice to river to sea. The melting water is an arrow of change. It is the glacier's farewell, and in this farewell, time's asymmetry is written. You recall the thermodynamic principle you met earlier, that entropy increases. Here, the glacier's melting is a perfect metaphor. Ice-ordered, crystalline, frozen in place. Water disordered, flowing, free. The transition is irreversible. The glacier cannot reassemble itself from its melt. It can only become something else. You think now of the times you've tried to return, to moments you wish to rewind, to choices you wish to unmake. But like the glacier, the past only melts into memory. It does not return. You pass now to a sunlit patch beside the ice. Here, life has begun to reclaim. Mosses and lichens cling to rock. Insects buzz softly in the air. The sun, warmer now in the midday sky, nurtures the slow growth of a fragile ecosystem. You feel the pulse of life as a form of time itself, because biological rhythms are governed by change, by irreversible growth, by cycles that cannot be reversed, only renewed. The glacier tells the story of forward time, not just in ice, but in loss and becoming. It is a reminder that time's arrow is felt in the flow from frozen stillness to flowing freedom. You watch as sunlight flickers on melting water. The droplets sparkle, tiny mirrors reflecting the slow unfolding of seasons. Seasons themselves are clocks made visible. They count the tilt of the earth. They measure the dance of light. They mark the passage of time. You drift now into thought. How often we resist change. How often we cling to the ice when we should flow. But the glacier teaches you gently to live in time is to accept its one-way path, not with fear, not with grief, but with grace. You imagine the glacier decades from now, smaller, softer, transformed, its ice becoming water, water becoming vapour, vapour icing and returning as rain, a cycle of matter, yes, but time, only forward. You step to the edge, look down at the deep blue meltwater pond that has formed. Its surface is calm, yet it holds within it the story of change, the story of time, and you feel it there, not just in your mind, but in your bones, the gentle pull forward, the soft unspooling, the endless becoming. You turn now. The glacier's slow flow continues behind you. The sun dips lower. And time, like ice melting in sunlight, keeps moving, not fast, not loud, but forward. Always forward. You peer into space-time's strange structure, where some believe past and future both exist, yet we only travel one way. The glacier's slow retreat fades behind you like a memory melting into mist. The air around you softens, and the horizon stretches wide and unfamiliar. You find yourself floating now, not in the vastness of space, nor within the fragile moments of your own mind, but somewhere in between where the edges of past, present and future blur into one continuous fabric. You are drifting inside space-time itself, not just a stage where events unfold, but a woven tapestry where every thread, every point exists simultaneously. This idea is strange, even unsettling, because you, like most beings, feel time as a flower river that carries you only forward. But some physicists and philosophers suggest a different view. They imagine the universe as a block, a four-dimensional block, where past, present and future are all equally real, where your birth, this moment, and your final breath coexist. This is called the block universe or eternalism. You float now beside this block, tracing its edges. It does not begin or end. It simply is. And yet, you are moving. You are moving inside this block. You feel time's arrow inside your chest, but the block itself is silent, unchanging, like a mountain that does not crumble. You wonder then, what is movement? Is it your consciousness travelling, or is it an illusion? Is the future truly waiting, or is it already here, folded gently beneath your feet, like a page turned just out of sight? You pass now through a cosmic street where all events are laid out not in sequence, but in relation. Here, your tomorrow is as fixed as your yesterday, but your experience, your awareness travels the path from one to the other, like walking a hallway already built, and you are the traveller. You feel the paradox. Because if the future exists, what of free will? What of choice? Are your steps preordained, or is there room for surprise? Some propose that the block universe allows for both, that your decisions are part of the block structure, not outside it, that your choices carve paths within the tapestry, that time's flow is both real and imagined. You drift through these thoughts like a gentle river, neither rushing nor resisting, because these questions are not puzzles to solve, but invitations to wonder. You begin to understand that time, as you feel it, is your passage through the block, your movement, your consciousness, your story, and the universe vast and silent holds all moments together. You look now at a tree rooted deeply in the ground. Its branches reach into the sky. To you, it is alive in the present, But in the block universe, it also exists as a sapling in the past and a fallen log in the future, all at once. You imagine a photograph capturing every moment of that tree's life stacked together, layered in space. That is the block, and your life is a thread within it. You feel a kind of comfort, because if the future exists, then moments are never truly lost. They linger, waiting to be found, like footprints in the sand or stars in the night. You drift toward a familiar place, your own room, your own bed. You see yourself lying there, eyes closed, breath soft, and you realize you are both the traveller and the traveller's journey. You are the now moving through the already, and the already moving through you. The block universe does not hurry. It does not push. It simply holds, and you, gently, move through its embrace. You breathe, you rest, you continue, because the future, the present, and the past are threads woven tight, and you are the weaver, you are the loom, you are the song sung softly through all time. You visit cosmic microwave echoes and supernova beats, wondering if the universe prefers a rhythm or plays jazz. You move gently now from the vast stillness of space-time's block to a space alive with rhythm. The cosmos around you pulses not like a steady ticking clock, but like a song with many beats, tempos, and silences. You wonder, does the universe have a clock? Not a clock like the ones on walls. Not a clock with hands or numbers, but a clock that keeps time for everything. Does it tick or does it dance? You drift toward the cosmic microwave background, that ancient whisper you met before. It hums with subtle fluctuations, ripples in temperature and density. This hum is not noise, it is a rhythm, a heartbeat left over from the universe's infancy. Some scientists have described these ripples as the universe's first music. The pattern of peaks and valleys in the background radiation encodes information about the cosmos's shape, content, and fate. You float through these ancient waves. They are faint but persistent, a cosmic lullaby. And like all music, it invites listening. You drift toward a distant supernova, a star that has exploded in brilliant death. Its light reaches you now, after millions of years, a pulse, a beat, a moment of transformation. Supernovae don't tick evenly. They vary in brightness and duration. They have their own rhythms. And yet, when many supernovae are observed together, patterns emerge. They can be used as standard candles to measure the universe's expansion. They become markers of time, not just events. You move from one supernova to another, tracing their varied pulses. Some are fast and bright, others slower and softer. Together, they create a complex beat. You imagine the universe as a jazz ensemble improvising rhythms, weaving solos, playing themes that shift and repeat. It is not metronomic. It is creative. It is alive. You pass now into the realm of pulsars, neutron stars that spin with astonishing regularity. Their pulses are more precise than the best atomic clocks on Earth. You imagine a pulsar's light flashing through the cosmos like a lighthouse beam. Each pulse a tick, each rotation a second. For some astronomers, pulsars serve as cosmic clocks. They are the universe's metronomes. You feel the regularity in your bones, the tick-tock that underlies chaos. You think about time measured not by human hands, but by stars and explosions, by rhythms born from destruction and creation, by moments etched in light that has travelled across eons. And yet, you sense something else, something softer, something less certain. Because while pulses keep steady beats, the universe itself does not always follow the same tempo. The expansion is accelerating. The cosmic microwave background cools. Dark energy whispers of change we do not yet understand. The beat changes, it stretches, it slips, like a jazz musician bending a note. You wonder now, is the universe a clock, or is it a song? Does it march to time or flow with it? No one knows, no one can say. But the mystery itself is beautiful, because you, here now, are listening. You are part of the music. You are moving with the rhythm, sometimes steady, sometimes uncertain, always forward. You let yourself float gently on this cosmic beat, breathing with the stars, dancing with the light, and resting within the silence between the pulses. Time, like music, is felt most deeply not in the notes, but in the space between them and tonight. You are carried softly by that space. You imagine a timeless world and a world that makes time and ask which one came first. You drift away now from the cosmic rhythms and distant stars, moving inward once more, not into the smallest particle, but into the quiet essence of existence itself. You ask a question without answer, a puzzle without edges. Can there be time without life, or life without time? You float through a vast emptiness, not quite empty, but barren of living things. A universe where atoms still dance, photons still race, galaxies still spin, but no heartbeat sounds, no mind watches the unfolding, no eyes to see the dawn. Here, time flows as before, measured in rotations, vibrations, decays, but something is missing. You feel it like a silence in music, like a breath held, but not released. Is time only real when there is someone to feel it? Does time stretch, shrink, or even exist without consciousness to measure it? You imagine the earth before life, a barren rock spinning in space. No birds sing, no wind stirs leaves, no mind to mark moments. Is the river still flowing? Does the sun still rise? Or is it all just a loop waiting to be noticed? You wonder now about life itself, not just humans, not just animals, but the first spark of self, the first flicker of awareness, a bacterium sensing light, a plant turning toward the sun, a neuron firing. Does life create time, or does time create life? Perhaps they co-emerged, intertwined, a dance where each shapes the other. You float now through the ancient ocean, the cradle of life. Warm, dark, endless. Here, molecules coil and twist, chains of carbon and nitrogen, the first fragile forms of metabolism. Their rhythms chemical, electrical mark moments. Here, time is not abstract. It is felt, in pulses, in growth, in decay. You watch a single-celled organism move toward light, a simple act, yet it defines a direction, a future chosen, a past left behind. In life, time gains meaning. It becomes story, a journey, a chance to become. You drift upward now to human consciousness. You feel the flow of your own thoughts, the rush of memories, the anticipation of dreams. Your sense of self is entwined with time's flow. You realize without life, time is a silent backdrop. With life, time becomes a companion, a dance partner. You linger with this thought, and then you float toward the stars again, not as distant objects, but as places of life, planets where oceans ripple, forests breathe, eyes watch the sky, and here, time is not just measured, it is lived. You breathe now, feeling your heartbeat in sync with the universe's pulse. You rest in the knowledge that time and life are mirrors. reflecting each other. And in this reflection, you find peace. Because wherever there is life, there is time. And wherever there is time, there is life. You drift gently now, cradled by this understanding, ready to move forward, always forward, together. You stand on the edge of possibility, where new physics suggests time might not be a one-way street after all. You float now on a delicate edge, not a cliff, not a boundary, but a place where the future and the past whisper possibilities rather than certainties. You have journeyed through the birth of time, its dance with entropy, the cosmic rhythms of stars and galaxies. And now, you arrive at a question that hums quietly beneath the surface of understanding. Could time ever run backward? You look out into the cosmic sea and wonder. The arrow of time has guided everything so far from the first breath of the universe to the beating of your heart. Yet some of the deepest mysteries in physics suggest that this arrow might not be absolute. You recall the strange behavior of particles in quantum mechanics, the way some can seem to flicker forward and backward, defying cause and effect. Could the macroscopic world, the one you live in, someday reveal similar surprises? You drift gently toward the realm of black holes again. There, at the edge of space-time, the rules begin to blur. Stephen Hawking once proposed that black holes emit radiation, slowly evaporating, and in the calculations of this Hawking radiation, hints emerged time's arrow could reverse in certain quantum gravity scenarios. You wonder if, deep inside the universe's most mysterious places, time is not a strict march forward, but a circle, a loop, a path that folds onto itself. Some physicists propose that the universe might be cyclic, expanding, contracting, then expanding again. In such models, time could reverse during the contraction phase. You imagine what that would feel like. A rewind, a soft unravelling of events, stars unforming, galaxies rewinding their dances, life unliving, not as tragedy, but as a gentle returning. You think of memory, how sometimes, in dreams or moments of nostalgia, you feel time folding back. Could that be more than feeling? Could time itself fold back in the fabric of reality? You drift toward quantum theories, proposing that time is an emergent phenomenon, not fundamental, but arising from deeper, timeless laws. If true, perhaps time's direction is flexible. Maybe it depends on perspective. Maybe the universe contains domains where time flows one way, and others where it flows another. You sense the thrill of possibility, not fear, not confusion, but wonder. Because to imagine time running backward is to imagine new stories, new songs, new ways of being. You float now through a field of thought experiments, the famous twin paradox, where one twin ages slower due to velocity, the thought of time machines, the speculative physics of wormholes and closed time-like curves. They are not certainties, they are questions, invitations. You feel yourself relaxing into the unknown, because time is not just measured by clocks. It is measured by the mysteries that keep growing. You return now to your own breath, steady, present, forward. Because even if time could reverse, for now, it carries you gently onward. You rest within its flow, and the mystery remains a soft song in the background. A question to cradle as you drift towards sleep. What if time's arrow is not an arrow, but a feather floating in a gentle breeze? And what if you, right now, are part of that breeze? You rest inside the quiet hush behind every second where time may not flow. but gently leans. You have travelled far, through the birth of time and the void before it, past the blazing fire of creation and the gentle push of entropy, along the first light escaping, stars burning, and gravity curving the very fabric beneath you. You have danced with the quantum world's flickering uncertainty, traced the silent triumph of matter over antimatter, paused at the edge of black holes where time nearly freezes, floated alongside drifting galaxies expanding into the infinite, felt the personal pulse of time within your mind and body, walked the frozen ice of glaciers melting into rivers, peered into space-time's woven block where all moments exist simultaneously, listened to the universe's rhythms, its cosmic music, imagined life and time as intertwined mysteries, stood at the threshold of possibility, wondering if time might reverse, and now you arrive at the quietest place of all, the space beneath the clock hands, not the tick, not the tock, but the pause between. You rest here, softly, gently, not trying to grasp or measure, but to simply be, because time, you realize, is more than a flow, more than a line or arrow. It is a whisper, a leaning, a soft invitation. It is the breath before sleep, the silence that holds the song. It is the moment that carries you between moments. You feel it now in your chest, a gentle stillness, a calmness, a presence. Not defined by past or future, not racing toward or away, just here. The universe, vast and unfolding, contains within it not just moments, but the spaces between, spaces where time is not forced, where time can rest, where time can lean into being. You think about the quiet corners of your life, the moments when the world slows, the breath held in wonder, the touch that says, I am here, the silence that says, I am enough. Those moments are time's secret. They are its heartbeat, its true pulse. You drift now into those moments, floating softly between seconds, resting in the tender hush beneath the clock hands. You feel the universe folding around you, not crushing, but cradling, not rushing, but lingering. And in this gentle holding, you find peace. Because time, the great mystery, is not just about movement, it is about presence, about being, and you are enough. You are here. You are time's whisper. You are the breath before sleep. You are the gentle leaning of all moments. Rest now, let go, float softly into the stillness, and know that in this quiet pause, time itself smiles and waits until you wake, until you dream again, until you return.